I'm Alex Sexton. My talk is on CSS colors, specifically the named ones. I know we deep dive into a lot of technical stuff a lot, so I wanted to deep dive into some history. So there's not a lot of code in this talk, but hopefully you find it pretty interesting. I do. Colors. Black and white. I realize that's a mistake now. What are they? Webster's dictionary defines a color as, so I was going to do the Webster's dictionary defines joke, but I didn't have to because this is a real website for the Webster's dictionary, and it's pretty, it's the worst website I've ever been to. So that's the real joke. Stay in school. So color, it says, is a quality such as red, blue, green, yellow, etc., that you see when you look at something. So now that we have that background, what's X11? You can't really understand what X11 is without understanding a few other things first, namely letters and numbers. Or more specifically, a letter and a number of which the set is X and 1. X11 is this sweet, gooey, I haven't actually read what's on that screen. I hope it's cool. X set seems very relevant. That was on purpose. The colors here look like various grays, maybe a black or two. The teal-looking color is light sea green. MIT, specifically the MIT Media Lab, was pretty infiltrated with like a bunch of companies in Boston at the time, namely DEC and Tektronix. So you'll see a lot of those people show up. But MIT Media Lab's where it's at. That's where X was created. So the first colors show up in RGB.txt in actually X10. So if anyone tries to call them the X11 colors, they're absolutely right. But you could like undermine them and tell them, well, actually, the colors come from X10R3. It's not as catchy. So 1987 was actually the first release. August 18th, 1987. I think I was 2 months old at the time. There were 69 colors in RGB.txt. And when I first wrote the slides for this, no one really knew the original author of the RGB.txt file. But since then, the X.org organization reached out to me and let me know that it was Jim Geddes. So thanks, X.org. Sweet fix for my presentation. There are 138 entries because, well, at the time, because they did camel case and lowercase spaced, because of course you would. They were listed in mostly alphabetical order, and they were tuned for the DEC VT240 series terminals. That is one. It looks very green. That's because the color they were using there was green, and that was it. So March 24th, 1988, 7 months after the first release, very close to my birthday. It's March 13th for those of you with pens and paper. It was a huge release for colors. We added 3 new colors, brown, gray, and gray. And you may be thinking, that sounds a lot like a law firm, but these were the colors in X11R2. And you may also be thinking, hey, that brown looks red, and are those grays the same color? The brown is very red, and those grays are the same color. Gray, spelled both ways, was intentionally added because some programmers at HP couldn't remember which one was right. For the record, in the States, it's A, and in England, it's E. So America and England, they start with the right letter for you. This was all domestic at the time, though, so it should have probably never made it in. Yeah. So, update. Literally this morning, 5 hours ago when I put this slide again, so maybe 10 hours now, Chrome Blink added all the E's. It traditionally didn't work in browsers. This happened. This is new history. This morning, literally this morning, you can now use G-R-E-Y. More of that. I thought they should have done this, though. If you're going to go for it, go all the way. So October 27, 1988 was release 3. There were 101 variants of gray added. This is my 101 Dalmatians joke slide. Very cruella. whatever. The 101 variants of gray were suggested and added by Marc Moraes. He was from the University of Toronto. September 3rd, 1988 was when he was added. I didn't go back to find this picture. This is the picture that he currently has on his current site. The 101 grays were gray 0, gray 1, gray 2, gray 3. I have some more slides. They were in this very clear 3-2 interval, 3, 5, 8, 10, 13, 15, 18. Sorry, I thought the intervals were funny. Except for that, a month and a half later, I don't know why it took so long, but a month and a half later, they went in and added all the misspellings too. So there are actually 202 grays. There were like 8 commits in between adding the grays and adding the E's. It's just like too much to type, I guess. So luckily, those are all now in CSS color level 4. You just have to add parens and percentages, and it's actually pretty close to what it used to be. Still disappointed. Also in this release, they moved white from 252 across the board to 255 across the board. Very important fix. I wonder what 255, 255, 255 was called before. My suggestions were really white or light white. They did that because white now equals gray 100. Before, gray 100 was whiter than white. That's what a lot of people say about me, too. A commit actually just after that release was the introduction of sandy brown, which is one of my favorite colors. This is one of 40 commits. There are 40 commits total on RGB.txt, and this is one of them. All they did was add sandy brown. And the commit message is added sandy brown. And you may notice, like, hey, there's something wrong with that. So over 2 months later, one of the other of the 40 commits is they fixed the camel casing in sandy brown. Very important color. I hope you're still using it. 5% of all commits to RGB.txt are sandy brown related. I personally like sandy brown, though, because there's got to be like 1,000 sandy browns that exist, like people that have no idea that they're an X11 color. Specifically, this guy has no idea. He kind of looks sandy brown, too, for what it's worth. 1989 was like a huge release, not in the joking way that I've already made twice, in a real way. We got Alice Blue, which is white on these projectors. Alice Blue is named after Alice in Wonderland's dress. That's a fun one. There's Blanched Almond. There's Fuchsia. There's Thomas Fuchsia. Lemonchiffons, Papaya Whip, Peachpuff. Those were just a list of some of my favorites. But this was where the real people came together. Paul Raveling and John C. Thomas were these 2 dudes on the X Windows mailing list. And Jim Fulton was the maintainer of the file. And so these 3 people together kind of had this culmination of new ideas on how we should name colors. Jim, I actually talked crap about the last time I talked about this. Now that I have all the commits, he did some good stuff. This is my favorite Jim Fulton commit. He took out transparent, which was pretty much just black and not transparent. It was just not quite black, so as long as your backgrounds are black, transparent should look fine for you, I guess. The second best Jim Fulton commit was removed blank line, boy, what a stupid program. That's 2.5% of RGB.txt. So the Raveling RGB.txt, his version of the colors, come from comp.windows.x, this news group before we had forums and really a lot of other stuff, on October 19th, 89. It was tuned to match his specific HP monitor. So everything you use today is tuned specifically to one dude's HP monitor from 1989. And when he said that, he didn't give a model number either, so I'm just assuming there was one HP monitor at the time. It was a response to one of his coworkers that said, "That's wheat?" And so he took it upon himself to change the color of wheat so it looked more like wheat. And so he went and he said, a lot of the names came from Sinclair paint swatches that he had from recently painting his house. This is Sinclair paints. green enamel specifically. The Sinclair Oil Company is that dinosaur logo at the bottom. They were sold in 1994 by Sinclair Oil for $51 million because they violated the Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention Act of 1991. He's quoted saying, by the way, I wanted to find ANSY's standard colors, but ANSY happily gobbled up my $16 without sending the specification I ordered. Then they ignored my follow-up letter. Nuts to ANSY and scare quotes ANSY standards. So you use Papaya Whip because ANSY never sent Paul Raveling some mail. This is where we moved away from mostly alphabetical order as well. He did some rearranging. He added a gradient approach to color groups. So he'd have chocolate, which is a color, and saddle brown, which is a color. But then he added chocolate 1, 2, 3, 4. And those colors were like, logarithmic steps darker from the original colors. But unfortunately, those would sometimes clash with colors that already existed. And so there would be like 2 names for the same color. Like chocolate 4 was the same as saddle brown in this case. And so I looked for a chocolate saddle brown, and that's what came up. I would imagine that's chocolate saddle brown 4 specifically. The Thomas RGB.txt submitted on Halloween 1989 to the list. That's probably a good Halloween joke. It was a response to an email sent to the list titled, "This is Pink." So the 2 lists that we use come from "This is Wheat" and "This is Pink." Oh, that was interesting. So this is it. The best section is, the pink color in particular looks like the flesh tone of someone who's been puking for several hours and would really rather get a bullet in the head than go on living. And so John C. Thomas responded, and the key section here, he says, advised by our human factors, folks, that standard colors, named colors exist, but only for well-controlled color coordinate systems like CIE, but not for RGB, I sat down one evening with the handiest standard of subjective color names, a box of 72 Crayola crayons. And then he said, believe it or not, 50% of the colors from RGB.txt were represented already. Crayons. This is where X11 Colors come from for the most part. But you might notice he said 72, a handy box of 72 crayons, and I knew them as a box of 64 as a kid, and I wondered to myself, where is this magical box of 72, and which colors did he pull from it? So I went and I found this is 72 crayons. What had happened is they retired some colors, and then they had leftover ones, so they put them in a box with the new ones and called it a collector's edition so they could get rid of them. They're currently worth over $7 on eBay. Here are the list of retired colors. You may recognize all of them as colors that didn't make it into CSS or even X11 Colors, so they ended up not mattering at all, and he could have said box of 64. So that's really a very worthless part of the talk. The since retired colors in crayons that still made it into the CSS colors even are Navajo white and Indian red. And a lot of people ask, are these colors racist? And I'll preface this with intent isn't magical is a good phrase here. So even if they aren't and people are offended by them, then we should address it. But Navajo white is the exact shade of color on the back of the Navajo flag. Now someone could have doctored that, because if you read the last sentence in this slide, or on Wikipedia here, it says in 1987, which is wrong, the color Navajo white was included in the X11 color list, which is not a thing, which after the invention of the World Wide Web in 1991, which is the wrong year, became known as the X11 web colors, which don't exist. So someone should edit that Wikipedia page. Indian red. Also, Navajo white is FF dead. Pretty sweet RGB value. Indian red actually showed up in the UK in 1792, and is referring to like rust oxide type stuff. So totally before that was really a slur. So that was likely, both of those are probably not racist initially. Peru, on the other hand, is a bit more of a mystery. I could find pretty much no information. I was like, oh, what color is the Peruvian flag? It's red and white. So I went to Wikipedia, and I saw on the brown page there is a link on the color or rather on the X11 page, it links to /Browns # Peru, and I was like, here's where I'll get my information. That doesn't exist. The only thing I could do was Command F for the word Peru on the brown page, and it comes up under the skin color section. So Peru is probably racist. Not the country, the color. Krantz, that's where we were. So this is pink. So over 50% of the colors were already represented, but we're guessing that that's probably because green and blue and red and yellow are pretty popular names for colors. So very important Thomas change was he removed medium goldenrod, but luckily he added pale goldenrod, dark goldenrod, light goldenrod yellow, and light goldenrod. I'm not sure what the difference between those last two were. I don't know. So these are all in Windows X. The second half of this talk is kind of me reading a lot of emails, but hopefully it's worth it to you. So Paul Vixie, the creator of the more well-known cron, the cron you use today, posts probably before he was doing too much with cron. And he created the first color picker with X11, and he called his color picker reasonably cute. And I just thought that was nice. He also posts a bunch of code directly into an email on a news group, and I thought that was like throwback GitHub 1988. This is Bob. He nails probably the best joke on the whole list. I read pretty much every email on this list. There's like 200 posts a year, guys. So Bob nails this joke. Someone asks, as a joke, they're trying to be sarcastic. They say, could someone please mail the recent message about using the definitive reference standard box of 64 crayons with the built-in sharpener? And Bob slyly responds back, the available reference, which someone else posted already, was based on the 72 crayon standard, so it was important. A later ANSI rev than the 64 crayon standard, but I think it will serve your purposes. The ISO 497 crayon standard is still in committee. The French delegation raised objections to the standard pronunciation of mauve, so it may be a while longer. In the meantime, the 72 box is useful, lighter weight, fits in more regularly shaped box, easier to keep sharp, less costly as a replacement time due to meltdown or teeth cutting / cat chewing, and universally available, even though it's not an international standard. Larry Wall, the creator of Perl, suggests that instead of naming these silly ways, how about we all get a curve-fitting program and match this really confusing system for having your own personal colors tuned to your own personal monitor, which is a pretty good idea, but about as confusing as Perl. And then he says that he's not going to write it. But at the time, he did work for NASA, which is pretty cool, so good on him. Jet Propulsion Lab, actually, that's what the JPL stands for. The first Is It Racist thread showed up at this time in 1992. It was mostly people not understanding why the initial guy thought it was racist, and then other people getting really mad, pretty much the same as today. And this person came in and said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we named these colors a little bit better? And she was 2 years before all those other people, and then no one ever responded to her email, and she missed out on her opportunity. So 5 years pass. We have the next version of X11, R5, and we changed gray from 192 to 190 across the board, and that was the last official X11 RGB.txt update. So how does this relate to CSS? Here are some CSS colors, all of them. There are 140 X11 colors, and they were specified in CSS3, which seems like, whoa, that seems pretty recent, except for that CSS3 was, of course, started in 2001, which is kind of blew my mind. So March 5th, 2001, Tantech posts the list of X11 color keywords on here. And they were really just codifying what browsers had already done for years. And no one wanted it, and they were all really mad about it on the mailing list. The hue distribution was wrong. We saw a different, prettier graph of this earlier. But this one comes out of a fun email. There are already some HTML colors, and this is kind of what Leia talked about before, and they mostly clashed. And so like you'll see like with lime versus green and gray versus gray, we had to use the old colors. We couldn't use it. So first mention of X11 colors specifically in CSS dates back to '96 by Chris Lilly. He was kind of an asshole in most of his posts, but he was right. So I think that's probably what it takes to be good in the standards organizations. So also note that just like before, this is his picture on his current website. I took it right off his website, and I actually think that they're the same pair of glasses that Mark Morey's, the 101 Grays guy, wore. I think they shared those, and then promised each other that they would never update their pictures. The WW style mailing list was also hilarious. This is a good one. This is Chris Lilly again. Someone says, to base a color model on the basic set of crayons used by Eurocultural children seems short-sighted. And he said, it would be if anyone was proposing it. I'm not, are you? That was him not realizing that, indeed, he was proposing it. He just didn't know where they came from. And then this guy, this one's not that interesting, except for that he thinks the reason we should use CMYK is because the largest use case is, for websites is printing them out. I actually laughed out loud whenever I read that. Dylan Sheeman, the co-creator of Dojo, wrote this nice email whenever they were getting kind of added to CSS3, and he's like, here are all these old posts and these archives of everyone disagreeing with this. I can't find anyone who supports them. I don't understand why we do it. I don't even understand why these colors exist and why they're so poorly named. Like, what is this system that we're using? And so his question in 2002 was recently responded to by me in 2014. I said, hey, Dylan, sorry for the short delay in responding to this, but I looked into where the X11 colors came from and thought I'd answer your question. Also, I was only 16 when you asked, and Google hadn't quite indexed all the old X11 news groups, so it's unlikely that I could have helped you at the time. And here's my favorite email, probably in the entire list. I already apologize for reading email to you, but again, this is from Stephen Pemberton, who also is still pretty active, not necessarily with CSS anymore, or some. He says, congratulations on an excellent specification. Many of the new facilities will be extremely useful, with one exception. The X11 color names are an abomination that should have been stifled at birth, and adding them to CSS is a blemish on the otherwise excellent design of CSS. Questionable. To say that X11 color set and their names have been designed is an insult to the word design. It's just a mess. Let me describe some of the problems. The set of colors described is very non-uniform. Look at, and that's his old graph from before. Very thankful for that. As an example to see how the hues are distributed, a vast overrepresentation of reds just to start off with. The names are just randomly put together. Some colors have a dark version, like red and dark red, but not all. 17 colors have dark versions, but only 13 have light versions. There's a medium blue, but not medium red. There are 15 varieties of blue, but only 6 of red. There are cultural references built in. Dodger blue, later switched to royal blue. So I can neither construct the color I want, nor know the color name refers to. Gainsborough Papaya Whip. On top of that, the naming scheme is inconsistent. Dark gray is lighter than gray. Light pink is darker than pink. Okay, I'll stop using exclamation marks now. He doesn't say that he'll stop using punctuation at all, but he goes ahead and does that too. It is gray and dark gray, but light gray with an E. Not anymore, as of today. Brown is not very brown, actually a dark red. What do you expect the difference is between sea green and medium sea green? Sea green is darker. What do you expect the difference between aquamarine and medium aquamarine? Aquamarine is lighter. There's a medium violet red and a pale violet red, but no violet red. There's a light goldenrod yellow, but no goldenrod yellow, just goldenrod. There's dark olive green, but no olive green, just olive. There's pale violet red, but no violet red. I'd like to submit an errata first. That's the first period in 10 lines, but he mentions that there's no violet red in the first line of that 4-bar stanza. So Steven, if you're watching, please fix that. Well, I could go on, but I'll stop here. He does go on. You get the picture. There's no possible reason that the X11 names should be added to CSS. And then he goes on to propose some actually pretty good ideas that I think kind of are being realized in the new stuff that Leia talked about today. So yay, go Stephen Pemberton in 2002. Hixie chimes in with what I assume is his autoresponder. These are merely added to CSS to codify current practices. Almost every browser already supports them. It's not going to change, so we might as well codify it. That's the Ian Hickson autoresponder. We're just doing what everyone already does. Get off my back. And then the final email that I found that I thought was interesting was, what if we could make our own system of color mappings so we can implement unique mappings, like, say, Krantz. So the final email is someone suggesting that maybe we can name our colors after Krantz instead of whatever they're currently named after. So it all ends with Krantz. So I like to end with my favorite commit. Boy, what a stupid program. Thanks.